Twitter. There's a WhatsApp number also scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and you could be part of the conversation using that channel as well. And even as you do that, you can get your news straight to your phone. Nairobi is awfully chilly this morning, so you don't need to leave the house or your office or where you're watching this particular show to go and get your copy of your People Daily. You can get it straight to your phone, and it's only 10 shillings. The number that you dial is star 550 star 4 hash. Once again, the number star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. And for the first 10 who will take a screenshot of their downloaded e-paper, send it with their name and where they're watching from to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, you, my friend, walk away with 250 shillings worth of airtime, all courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. So fastest finger first on this, dial the number star 550 star 4 hash. Get yourself a copy of your PD, take a screenshot, send it with your name and where you're watching the show, and we'll send you 250 shillings worth of airtime, all courtesy of the PD and Safaricom. Speaking of, let's look at what you'll be getting on the front page of your e-paper once you download it. Front page of the PD, relief for MPs as court holds CJ's advisory. A judge directs petition to be heard by bench appointed by Maraga, who is the first respondent on this. So it goes to the corridors of justice. Awfully tricky legislation, this one. 4 times failed on the floor of the House. Where does it go from here? Because it seems like the advisory has been given. And from this particular point in time, well, we've heard the interpretations of this. We have the lawyers, we have the linguists trying to make head or tails of shall. What that will mean. How do you move forward from here? And you can get the details of that particular story on your front page of the PD therein. Also in the PD, latest BBI draft gives more powers to Senate. You can get that particular story right there, of course, as we wait for that particular draft, second draft of this particular report. The big question is what changes will be made in there, and really, will it be adopted? Is this a time for this as well? We'll be discussing that right here on the show. And even as we look at that, daring the boss, Ruto's by-election gamble. Allies of the DP indicate they will sponsor a candidate in the Msambweni mini-election, pitting him against the handshake. As we have seen so far, the official response on this one, as far as Jubilee fielding a candidate, was they will not do that because of the handshake. And it was at the footsteps of Jubilee headquarters that the DP also said that they wouldn't field a candidate right there. But it seems like his allies intimating something different. You can get that story on page 2 of your People Daily this morning. Front page of the Daily Nation, same story there. Maraga, MPs turn against speakers. Parliament and the AG yesterday came together to seek a way out of the crisis, but even as the two sides coalesced into a marriage of convenience, it emerged that all of this was happening, all was not well in Parliament, as lawmakers and mainly senators are not happy with the way the dispute was handled so far. Speaker Lusaka, Speaker Muturi, as seen right there on the front page of the Daily Nation, and the discussions that they're having, of course, how they will move forward in this particular impasse that seems to be in the offing. Also, KTDA faces the wrath of farmers opposed to the reduced tea bonus. We've seen what has happened in terms of the economy getting a real battering because of COVID-19. Tea consumption also globally taking a slump on this one. But the farmers at the end of the day are seeking their justified dues. You can get that story as well in your copy of your Daily Nation therein. They're also talking about the showdown. Ruto grabs Raila man for Kwale by-election. So it seems that at the end of the day, that by-election will take place. And if the media reports are anything to go by, we'll have the DP pitting himself against the handshake to see how that pans out at the Msambweni mini by-election. This story can be found in your Daily Nation on page 6 therein. Front page of the Standard now, Uhuru call that shattered Ruto's plans. They're calling it a game changer. It was a 30-minute call that saw DP half-heartedly back party decision not to field a candidate in the Msambweni poll. But he set tongues wagging yesterday when he met an independent aspirant. As you can see right there, we're talking about Faisal Abdallah Bader, an aspirant for Msambweni parliamentary seat, meeting Deputy President William Ruto right there. So the big question is, what does this really mean? Is he supporting the candidate? What goes on from here? Already they had said, as a party, they will not field a candidate, and he is the deputy party leader right there. You get the details and the intrigues of that on page 6 of your Standard today. Also in your Standard on the front page, Maraga advice halted as LSK piles pressure. LSK writes to authorities indicating House stands dissolved on October 12th, even as court stops implementation. So a spanner also being thrown into the works by the Law Society of Kenya. and that story is on page 4 and 5 of your Standard this morning. Front page of the Star now. Akinyi's woes, 60 million shillings at stake, vehicle seized. Search in her home last year yielded 1,050 grams of heroin. They're talking about a war on narcotics. Used to deposit less than 1 million shillings to beat CBK rules. And from what we're seeing right here, it seems like from the Star's reports, the net is tightening, of course, on those dealing in this particular trade. And that story is on page 6 of your Star this morning. You get all the details right there. Also in the Star, why Ruto has 1 foot out of ruling Jubilee Party. As you can see him right there, standing with Msambweni parliamentary aspirant Faisal Abdallah. And the big question is, after stating the official party position at the headquarters, was there a change of heart, a change of mind, and more importantly, how does it go from here? The details of that can be found in the Star. And finally, on the front page of the Business Daily, Kenya-Chinese space station deal alarms US. NASA warns US supremacy under threat in Beijing astronaut step, as you can see right there. And of course, these matters not only affecting economic matters in respective countries, but also the general geopolitics playing out. And you can get that story in detail in your copy of your Business Daily therein. And even as you look at that right here on the show, talking about devolution in the new normal, things aren't as they were if you go back and dial the clock past, March 13th. So as we move forward, have counties adapted new ways of operating, or is it business as usual at the county level? That's a discussion we're having right here. A very able panel to go through this particular discussion as well. And we love it when you give us your feedback. So you can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Welcome. This is K24 This Morning. Welcome back, and we are making sure that if we're going to talk about devolution and what's happening at the grassroots, we'll talk to people who have that touch and know exactly what's going on. So if we're talking about a new normal, they're first in line to tell us if anything has changed from that particular level. In studio, joined by Dr. Peter K. Mbae. He is the MCA Kabazi Ward. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Asante sana. No stranger to the show, June Dego, karibu sana. She's also a nominated MCA, Nairobi County as well. Good morning.
Morning, happy to
Karibu.
be here, Jeff.
Asante
Thank
sana.
you. Yeah.
Thank you for making time. We'll also be joined later on by Speaker Wahome of Nyandarua County. But let's start right here in studio with this particular conversation, even as it stands right now. Just from the framework of what we are seeing with how people are moving, BBI seems to be in the horizon. From where you stand in your respective counties, have we changed how we're operating to be COVID sensitive, or is it just how we were before? The reggae is back, let us continue. COVID has gone. We have flattened the curve.
Very surprising, because as you know, Jeff, officially, we are not out of the woods yet. We are not yet at 5 for 2 weeks. We are not. Right. So officially, according to WHO, we are not yet out of the woods. It's interesting. It's surprising, like the politicians have been waiting to be told go, so that they can move. And already they are there. Now, when you see all the big men in the country moving around and all that, that message, the message you are sending to that, those local people is that it's done. We can move on. But the only thing is, suppose we celebrate too early, and then in the midst of all this, then we go back. So for me, this need for caution. Unfortunately, the way things are is like it's normal. Let's move on. It's very, very dangerous. Looking at it even scientifically and technically, right? It's a very, very sad affair.
Right.
It ought not to be that way.
Let me get June in on this one, because during the COVID pandemic, with respect to your county, things changed in terms of how the functions are being carried out, who's in charge of which functions. How's that looking now? Because it seems like Nairobi is the only county that changed operations, and now we have a major general in charge of some of the key functions in the county.
Nairobi is an interesting county, and I always say that devolution came to give power to the people. And people are more enlightened right now when it comes to bills and maybe public participation that happens. And yes, when the governor transferred some of the functions to NMS and now under Major General Badi, we have seen the work being done. And I can say that NMS is very cautious and is COVID sensitive, because even the budgets for COVID are up. We can see them trying to sensitize wananchi and how to take care of COVID, although the politicians themselves, and I want to second my colleague, the politicians themselves have actually thrown caution to the wind, and it feels like COVID rules should only operate onto some quarters, and it doesn't operate onto some quarters. I'd like to put in, we saw what happened in London. Kids went back to school, and the COVID ratings went and shot up, and now they are closed again for another 60 days. So we shouldn't take this this pandemic as easily as is. We should try and adopt and even use technology to adopt to the new normal.
Okay, and we'll be talking about that as well. We want your feedback as well. You have a question of the day that we'll be putting up on screen. We want your feedback on this one as it stands. Let's have it up. How have counties adapted to a post-COVID Kenya? If they have, we'd love to know. How have counties adapted to a post-COVID Kenya from wherever you are? You've seen how things are running. We'd love your feedback on that. You can get me on WhatsApp with the number at the bottom of the screen. You can also get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 on Twitter. How have counties adapted to a post-COVID Kenya? That's the conversation we're having right now. And you can send your feedback in on this one as well. And even as we look at this, politically speaking right now, it seems like a spanner has been thrown into the works, especially for Parliament at this particular point in time. Do you have a Parliament moving forward? Do we not? Some interpretations when this advisory was given on day one is that all the way up until your seats as well, you'd have to plan yourselves for premature campaigns on this one. From where you stand, are we going to get out of the woods right now? Because you can see the LSK throwing a spanner in the works. Now we're in court for this particular decision. When do we get to work to fix the economy, Dr.?
Now, quickly, there's one thing we must understand when you talk about all this. In the political science, we talk about politics, but how it relates to development on one hand and how it relates to the economy. Now, the problem we have in Kenya, we get mixed up everywhere. We put politics here, we put economy, development, and they can't work together. For example, politics and development do not work. When you bring politics, development takes, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. Now, talking about this issue. Now, if we look at the CJ, CJ has weeks to go, and he thinks this is what the Constitution says in black and white. Again, Jeff, how you put such details in a constitution is another story altogether. You know, I think we were so much hungry for a new constitution, so that and all the activists came in and everybody and were like, can we get something going? So we put details. You don't put details in a constitution. Those are things you leave in the acts of legislation and all that. Right. But then you say it shall happen, this will happen, the CJ will advise and the president will do. Now that's a bit too much, but that's another story altogether. CJ thinks it's time to go. Look, here I am. 11 weeks, I have to leave a legacy. I have to say, I don't want somebody to come and say, you got petitions, you did nothing. And he has a legacy to protect, so to speak. On the other hand, they're arguing that according to Article 100, they sent some regulations, already that's what they're arguing, the senators right now and MPs, to regulate the issues of gender. And they are saying, according to Schedule 5, there's nothing like specifically where it's written that they're supposed to enact this particular law. That's the argument. But looking at it this way, honestly, we operate in a political environment vis-a-vis economic. I don't think personally that this nation is likely to absorb that kind of a drastic action. Now, what will happen legalistically or legally, it could be that it's supposed to happen. But looking at other factors, including politically, it may not work. So at the end of the day, what I see happening, like you saw yesterday, somebody went to court, you know, it was temporarily halted. The most interesting thing is that the judge, you know, referred the matter to the CJ to appoint a bench to deal with the matter. Look, it's all circus. So, and this is why I think, for the first time, we need to come together, the president, the speakers, the MPs and senators. We don't need to go that way. We don't need to, we don't have the time for that. Look here, we don't have the time for that. We have just one more year remaining to recover from COVID and do a bit of development until around August next year. Then we go to the elections. I don't think that's necessary for now. Let's figure it out around us. Let's see what we can do, but we are not ready to dissolve all these kind of things. And in any case, Jeff, county assemblies were not part of that. The issue is parliament, as per the constitution. But in any case, even for parliament, we don't have the time for that. We don't want to go to that. Let us not go drain our energies towards something like that. Let us be concentrating on how we can, you know, deal with the development, how we can recover, how our small business people can recover for this 1 year before we now go to the other elections. That's my point.
June, Dr. Mbae says that we are very hungry for this constitution that we got in 2010. But that hunger seems like it's come back again, and now we're talking about BBI. We need to do this. We need to do this now. Are we shooting ourselves in the other foot, as we did 10 years ago?
I think countries go through, when countries are developing, they go through a lot, and matters constitution come a lot, especially when we see that we have moved from one step to another. I fully support the BBI. I think the BBI will fix a few issues that we are dealing with. Matters even 2/3 gender rule will be fixed with the BBI. Matters the voice of the youth being heard will be fixed to the BBI. Of course, there are people who have a dissenting move against the BBI. BBI. If it is the right time to do it, I think it is the right time to do it. And I know that as a country, we have done enough public participation. And thank God we did it before COVID came. The hindrance is now this particular pandemic. I am not sure whether it is, I am actually sure that it is not into public interest that then again we are pushing for BBI through rallies, considering that now the coronavirus is still very much alive with us. So yes, it is time to change the constitution and continue amending it, until we become better. Because remember, we had a constitution that we used in Mbae times for 24 years. So people did not have that much of a voice. And so I think we have to go through this turmoil before then we enact PPI.
Let's look at but maybe Jeff, on that, just a quick one. There's something you mentioned about LSK. I want to say this. It's very interesting. I think we are living in one of the best times ever. I mean, the president of LSK, he's over the moon. I mean, he has a lot of energy. He's hitting everywhere. I mean, he feels like he's going to wreck everywhere. At one time, he wants to petition the president to be impeached. At some point, he wants to clear everybody. He's lighting the letters everywhere. Well, good energy, but again, I must say, I mean, we must also do in all the positions we have in government. Also, let's temper that with some realism. Let's be realistic and all that. Right. But she mentioned about BBI, and she said she supports BBI. Jeff, the only thing is this: from where I sit, also as a professional, you can't tell me to talk about something I have not seen. And we are all saying we know there's something we are told is coming, but I don't want to go to point of saying whether I support or not because I don't know it. I've not seen it. I really don't know what it is and what is contained there. So for me, on BBI, I just want to say one thing. The biggest problem, Jeff, in Africa is that leaders in Africa, they sometimes when they get to power, they use every means, all manner of methods and all that to just do things, not mostly for the people, but mostly for themselves. Is a question I'm throwing here. If there's a need, the question is there a need to review? That is the first question which we should throw in and discuss as Kenyans. If there is, where and how? Which elements are supposed to be changed in the BBI? But and for example, there are so many things coming up. Like I read the story that you have just referred to. A lot of details on what is going to contain. That is from one source. We don't know for sure what is happening. For example, from where I sit, we talked about regional governments. Somebody mentioned about regional governments, Jeff. And I can tell you, we have enough problems with the county governments already. We don't need another layer to come and duplicate the problems we have. We have not yet absorbed the issues of absorption, the issues of capacity. Then if you bring another layer, you are saying that doesn't mean there will be more money coming from Nairobi. It is just the same amount of money, which has to be eaten up by another layer before we go to the counties and we go to Wajiko now. That's in a nutshell.
Dr. Mbae, I want to talk about that because that's where we were going actually. Because from where you stand as an institution in the county assembly, your work is oversight and to see how these monies are being spent from Nairobi or own source revenue from the counties. With Nakuru, as you look at it as a county, because at the end of the day, especially with COVID, we've heard of very many scandals at a national level and also at a devolved level as well. When it comes to accountability of these monies, where does it stand as far as Nakuru County is concerned, especially to do with COVID-19 right now?
For Nakuru, and I'll go specifically, I'm a member of the budget committee, so we sat down when the money came from, we got 201 million for Nakuru County, and we approved the budget in the county assembly. It was itemized. We told them, can you tell us details? Where is the money going? Naivasha Hospital, level 5 in Nakuru, Molo, Gilgil Hospital, Subukia, Kambazi, and others. So what happened is this, we approved a budget, and I can tell you, the auditors were in Nakuru recently. The report I have is that, as late as yesterday, is that all the COVID money that was supposed to, the additional money the health ministry gave 201 million. Now, there was an additional money, of course, we had passed earlier, 487 million. And the part of it was to go and buy food for the vulnerable people. Others was to go and build capacity in the hospitals. Now, what happened is that, of course, there were issues. Civil society came up and said there are issues they have. The disaster committee in the county assembly is engaging on that matter to find out how it went. There were two tranches, the 487 and then this 201. The 201 already is what is being used right now. It's intact, it's now being used. The other one, there were issues about Nakuru, and the civil society came up with issues about the distribution, how it was done, the food, and all that. It is being handled by the disaster committee of the county assembly, and I'm sure they're going to give us a
comprehensive report on that.
Yes.
Let me bring it to Nairobi County as well, because even as we look at how the Major General is dealing with COVID-19, interesting story this week concerning car loans and the accounts that Nairobi MCAs should get this money from, and now the MCAs want these accounts probed. What is going on there right now?
First of all, let me just clear the air about BBI. The reason I strongly feel about BBI is about, sorry about that. The reason I feel so strongly about BBI is because we gave submissions and we are positive that our submissions will be picked by the committee. Nairobi County is an interesting place, I told you. It is one of the best places to work if you want to get political experience from 0 to 100.
Right.
We have a car and mortgage loan that was there from 2013. It was the board that was there before is the one that was managing this car loan through Family Bank. But then now again, the same board comes, the County Assembly Public Service Board, comes back in 2017, and they decide to move the accounts, or rather to amalgamate the accounts, and then now take it to Cooperative Bank. What we have seen our interest not being paid by Cooperative Bank. We have seen people push for the same clerk who was removed by Nairobi County Assembly members to come back. We are seeing a push and pull of monies close to maybe about 97 million shillings in interest that has gone, I think, into people's pockets. This account, remember, it was closed in October this year. It is public funds. I think we should not be joking around with public funds. The people who are involved in this, from Cooperative Bank to the former board, the former clerk and the former leadership, should be probed. And let's see where this public money is going. Jeff, we are tired of saying public money is getting lost and it's being eaten by the same people.
When a viewer hears that there's a clerk who's being pushed back into office, we know how Nairobi County politics works, and that's a recipe for chaos. We saw what happened the last time the police came into the county assembly. Is that what we're about to witness soon?
This is the same clerk, yes. We've gone back to the old days. This is the same clerk who has all these issues, whose record is totally unclean. And we were just following a presidential directive to say that, look here, we do not want corrupt people in the assembly. We do not want people who cannot be able to be accountable. And he has some forces that are pushing him back. And they're pushing him back when now there's another account that's being probed, considering that he also has other matters in court. Yeah, matters surrounding his employment and stuff like that. I think it's about time, as Nairobians, we just need to take a chill pill and move on. With,
I like what she's saying, that it's time they need to do it. Now look here, Nairobi, the drama in Nairobi County Assembly and Nairobi County government is another level altogether. I don't come from Nairobi, but I can tell you,
have seen.
I mean, MCs themselves, they have 14 guns. I mean, I'm wondering, is this a military barrack? Are they trying to train something?
But even when you talk about Nairobi County, we've seen that particular chaos right up now.
But I can tell you,
what brings the MCAs to that point?
I would say this, Jeff. I think we have a problem with the capacity. The most powerful position, or one, if you want to help people, is MCA.
It's an MCA.
Because we have 14 functions that you need to coordinate with the governor to serve your people. I mean, if you talk about water, surety, and roads, and agriculture, that's it. Those are the key things that the people need on the ground. And that's why they are in the county government. But now, I think people got excited. We didn't say, what do you need for you to be able to have the capacity to drive these agendas? Then we have people who have this mentality, I'm getting here to be rich. I must go and grab all the pros around there and all the land and everything. I must go get a big car, get bodyguards in the Kadru out, people to protect me. And you do so many kind of things such that you're not even secure. So you have to have a gun. And you have to go around harassing everyone. Now, look, who suffers is the Wanjiku. That woman, look here, they have so small things, needs that they have. Just a small thing. They just need maram, they just need a bridge to cross, or even in Nairobi, they just need storm drainage water and street lights. But it's all darkness, and the people that were sent there. So the problem is, we give so much work, we define the MC a very big position, by the way. The biggest capacity people should have in electing leaders is number one, MC and MP. Forget about governors and presidents, because if you have a good MCA, they'll reach the governor.
Right.
If you have a good MP, they'll reach the president. But because that's where the people are. The drama we see with people want to show we are powerful. You know, the CGA says we can impeach the governor. Look here, we are not here because we have 1 year. Even you, by the time you go saying you want to impeach the governor or bring all the manner of trouble in the county assemblies, you also have 20 people who want to impeach you in the next elections or the Wanjiku there. So let's calm down. Let's, as MCs, remember, those are positions we are given to just go and engage the people and serve them, right? Impeachment is the last resort, for example. That's what is there. But we use it as a first resort because we want him to engage the governors to show that we have powers and all that. Yes, impeachment, yes, it's there in the CGA. Let's use it in a measured way. Let us do what we were sent to do. Nairobi, we are watching. The kind of things that happen here, I think other people are learning from Nairobi. When you hear guns, maybe some people now wants to go and get them. Now, there are issues of clerks out, speaker in. Could it be the reason why where the president got embarrassed and said, this is the capital city, this is where I sit, this is where the UN sits? Can we then bring the extreme from this kind of politics to a disciplined person? Could it be the reason? Are we embarrassing devolution by what we are doing? Because literally, somebody is saying, maybe this was not meant to work. And that's why we are giving those people who are opposed to devolution a key to come and say, by the way, we may not need this devolution. And that's why we are suffering the counties, because there are some people who feel, was this thing worth it?
June, let me have you in on this one, because that's a sentiment people have had when they saw what happened with the police, beating, MCAs in the county assembly right here in Nairobi. This week we had in Migori, same fracas in there. I think even there was an MCA whose hand was broken because of impeachment issues with the governor. And they sit and say, these people really don't know our problems. We are hungry, our businesses have shut. Yet look at the drama that's happening in the county assemblies. What's your response to that?
I must say there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interference also with the executive. The executive and the assembly are supposed to have a very symbiotic relationship. But then this does not happen because of, say, and quote-to-quote, the interest. When you speak about Nairobi having guns, I think we also have statistics that Nairobi has about, the CBD has about 11 or 12 toilets. These toilets are cash cows for people and are dens for gangs and just unruly people. So if you find, say, a leadership or a majority leader who is fighting for this particular toilet so that they can be able to harbor this disease, then it's all gone wrong. I think we need to have a caliber of leaders that have the interest of the people at heart. And this is what happened in Nairobi, because last time they were of the same breath, they thought the same, they did the same. That's why we didn't see this kind of chaos coming up. But then now we have a caliber of leaders now in Nairobi County who are saying, wait, hold up, the clerk cannot be the only mandatory signature to this account that has public funds, and when he is removed from office, so everything else goes with him. You get, so when you start probing when you start asking such questions and you start probing these things, then they have to fight back, and corruption fights back, and so they fight back complete with the whole army that they have, including the police and stuff, which I do not agree with. I think there are things that we can be able to sit down and, as he said, not embarrass the president, not embarrass devolution, and come to the same table and move forward matters development. We have seen Major General Badi, who does not take orders from anyone else, who is not in this political circus, and we've seen him work. I mean, really, so is this a solution that we are saying, yes, now we want major generals all over the county assemblies or counties to be able to work? We just need to learn and get enough from what he's giving us for development. Development is something small. We just need roads, lighting, stuff like that.
Okay, we want us to get a first break at this particular point in time. We want to hear from you as well, even in this particular conversation. As it stands right now, we're looking at a post-COVID Kenya as we move gradually reopening different sectors. But from the counties, have they adapted a new way? Are they adapting to the new normal? We'd love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number is at the bottom of the screen. And don't forget, you can get yourself a copy of your PD. It's only 10 shillings straight to your phone. The number that you dial is *550*4#. Once again, the number *550*4#. Short break. We're back with more. This is K24 This Morning. Kuna wengine walificha. Hey. Hey. Yes. Sorry? Okay. So this is Zoom. Okay.
They have gone for a break.
Brenda, B, how many minutes? 3. Okay. I'll be back. Hopefully. Hey, lakini like you said, Nairobi politics, yani. Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review, of course, talking about devolution in the new normal. Where is it right now? Things have changed awfully much as we get to the tail end of the year. But from a devolution level, we've seen the standoff that was there, even with revenue allocation to the counties. But even as the counties get these monies, have they adapted to how they move forward on this? That's a discussion we're having right here in studio. And of course, we want your feedback on this as well. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote, or you can also get me at K24 TV. The WhatsApp number also on the bottom of the screen. So if you have any feedback that you want to share via WhatsApp, that WhatsApp number open for your feedback right there. We have Alfcom who's saying this notion of Nairobi being a special county is one that I fail to understand. Tulishindwa na kazi. Let me start from there. June, this is Nairobi County. They're wondering who failed on the job, because Alf is trying to understand and he can't get it.
Nairobi is not a special county, so to speak, for lack of a better word. It's a capital city. It is the one that gives 60% of the country's GDP. So you can imagine if Nairobi fails, then it trickles down to other counties. Who failed on the job? We all know who failed on the job. It's as clear as black and white. He failed on the job. He realized he has failed on the job. He begged to give the president some of his functions to deal for him, and that's exactly what happened. And we are seeing a lot of development right now with the current NMS that is happening. So who failed on the job? We know who failed on his job. And it's good that he accepted that he failed on his job. So incompetence cannot be shouted about in this country.
Dr. Mbae, let me have you on this one as well, because even as you speak about that, the last governor who failed on his job had to leave office, Ferdinand Waititu. We've seen what happened to him so far. And there's this whole talk of executive overreach into parliamentary structures, whether it's the Senate or the National Assembly. But at a county level, do you experience that as well? Because there was a time the Nairobi governor would have left. There was a meeting that took place in State House, and that impeachment was shelved. How independent are county assemblies when it comes to the issues they need to discharge?
Now, I'll be very candid with you. The relationship that is envisaged in the Constitution and the CGA is the County Government Act, is one of you need each other. I call it engagement, okay? Not bulldozing, not fighting and all that. Eh? You have your space. They have their space. The executive, for example, brings a report. We look at it. We make amendments, for example, budget. And that's the way it should be. And I want to say this. We on issues of independence, for example, I'll give you an example of Nakuru. There are so many things we go through. So many. Remember, Nakuru was the first county that was supposed to impeach the speaker. It was all over. It went up to the end. We defeated it. And we said, no, look here, guys. We don't want to go this way. And then also, previously, issues will come. No, we have a problem with the executive.
Were there any calls made for that impeachment?
We went all the way to the end. We lobbied ourselves. Some of us came and said, no, we don't need this way. I mean, the grounds are not enough, for example. We did our own. Now, executive issues. We have oversight. We have committees. We summon every day. There's a minister, CEC, or a CEO or a director coming to the assembly to answer questions. That's how we do it. That's how we engage. And I want to say this. On the issues of independence of the assembly, we are making headway. We are not that bad. But please, let us not confuse our independence and the issue of working together to mean fights and all that, the executive, so that we are seen to be working. That is not in the same. Let's do it in a bit of maturity so that we can be seen to be seen. Now, you mentioned about, for example, the issues of governance and the qualities and all that. Now, what I would say is this. The problem we have, Jeff, in this country, we look for merchants, business merchants, people with no calling or passion for community people and politics. We put them in positions of politics, elected positions. We will never get it right. The issues about leadership, the people who founded politics, they said there is some steps you needed to go through before you are given the mandate to rule, because they said virtue is given from God, very rarely to very few people, not to everybody. Given by God to very few men. Now the question is, the people we put in offices. And the problem is the middle class. You know, we don't want to get dirty. We don't want. I mean, you want to leave politics to anybody else who passes by. So just come and jump on board, and they go there, and then you begin complaining. Why do you think somebody changes? Nobody changes, BF. The same person who was asking for votes, but he just put some sheepskin, and the moment he gets there, he's incompetent. The people who are incompetent, they were even before. Let me tell you one thing. Nobody changes. It is us electorally that we don't see.
Right.
You put somebody who is not worth. If you put a businessman, Jeff, to parliament, they'll be calling, asking where sugar has come from. Malawi, Burundi, is maize, where is maize coming? Somalia. And that is will be work. But you need servant leaders. Let's go back to 1960s, where you elected people with nothing. There was no CDF or nothing. But you'd go and lobby for a whole water project. You'd go and lobby for a whole school to be built. That is why you must go for. Otherwise, we'll not escape this. Right. You get the wrong person. Why do you expect results? You knew very well. I mean, you cannot change. Somebody who was doing some gymnastics on the road, when you give them, even if you call them His Excellency, he will not change. That thing is still with him. Okay. He will just demonstrate it, and it will be very embarrassing. Look at where we are today. And so I'm saying kindly, going forward, three qualities. One, if you want to go to elect leaders, one, look for somebody with passion. This is a calling just like going to church and preaching and being a bishop or whatever, or a vicar. Look at the process fathers go before they are ordained as a father. How is it that we think politics, you can just wake up one morning with passion, no known passion, no nothing. Number two, capacity. Jeff, if you don't have the capacity to do the work you're looking for, even if you have so much zeal, you not make it. And number three, fear of God. Jeff, the decisions we are forced to make when we are alone are too many for the people. If you don't have a bit, don't become over spiritual, just a bit of fear of God, basic. Right. You are not be able to do this work. This is a lot of sacrifice, and you have to do it right. So I think that's the problem we have, Jeff. Okay. We come talking about this, and the president, so Kenya is going up. We embarrass devolution, and I hope something is going to happen.
Let's move from the governors and the qualities, right, then move to the lowest who need our help. And now the children, they've been at home for so long, waiting for a directive from the CS when schools reopen, how we move forward from that. But because, again, you're the ones on the ground, and at times even, it's said on Twitter, vitu kwa ground is different. When you look at the wards at where you are, at the county from where you are we ready to have these children back in school before 2021 June? Let's start with you.
To be honest, I don't think we are as ready as we should be. I know that the measures have been taken by Ministry of Education, and even as for the ECD centers in the counties, I know that some have taken measures to make schools COVID compliant. We have seen even on the papers that some schools were used as cow sheds and others were used as chicken rearing institutions. But for now, to be honest, with what we have seen with the rest of the world as people are going back to school, it feels like we are not fully ready, and we need to give ourselves a timeline of when to be fully COVID compliant so that we can go back to school. Remember, these are the basics. These are children. This is the future generation. We cannot gamble with going back to school just because there's pressure from the outside. But on the other hand, I don't even know whether the parents were also ready, because there's a fear that if you take your child to school, will they now be the ones to come back and contract COVID-19 and bring it back to the homes? So I'm very skeptical about how ready and the readiness we are. I know that CS Magoha, they've done everything in the Ministry of Education to try and make institutions COVID compliant, but I think more needs to be done before we can actually push them to take the kids to school. And let us not run away from our responsibility. I feel like parents are saying, watoto wamekula sana sasa warudi shule, but let's think about the health and whether we are actually COVID compliant. Another thing is, I saw a statement yesterday by one of my colleagues, Honorable Moses Ogeto, saying that pesa ya basari imekuliwa, about 220-something million that was set aside for bursaries in Nairobi County, then it's not there. So then now what happens? Even as the kids go to school, there are so many who rely on this bursary money. Then until that is proved and it's done, we are not ready.
Dr. Mbae, what's the status of Kabazi ward right now?
I can tell you for sure, this is what I think. We are not talking about everybody going back. We are talking about getting the candidates back. I mean, you know, look at it. It's only 13 countries in Africa that shut the schools, remember? In that, Kenya being one of them. Now, what I think, let's do it in a phased way. We are talking about candidates. Let the KCSE and KCP go back in October as a ministry. Then we look at it. So that they will go and finish the term, go back in January. At the end of the day, we also can't watch, you know, sit back for the whole world, wait until the thing goes zero. Me, I think, let's do it in a phased way, the way the ministry is proposing. Let's begin learning lessons. Let's see what will happen. Remember, there are not many. When you talk about candidates, you know, in primary, maybe 20, 100, in secondary schools, but let us also not completely kill a whole academic year. So I think, yes, I support the proposal by the ministry. Right. Let's do it. I mean, we have to keep on living. Remember, WHO said very well, this thing is here. Right. But goodly, we are at 6. Maybe in another month we'll be at 5. Good enough. Okay. I
think we need to, just to put in on what he said, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that our institutions maybe are the ones that are not, you know, ready. We can do it in a phased way, but then are the institutions themselves COVID compliant totally? Because then we don't want also to look as if we are taking the kids to play and see whether, ping pong and see, okay, have this one's gotten or have this one's gotten. I would like to see institutions from the lower level to even the tertiary education, that the institutions are COVID compliant. Right. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we can concentrate on the candidates who are going, for example, put everything about masks and maybe washing the institutions. And because it's a small number, it's manageable. Because it's a small number, it can be managed.
Okay, use that as a case study.
Yeah, we use that to see
open for the other.
No, and I don't want to use the word case study. Case study is not good enough. Okay. We are saying, look, the WHO has said we are here to stay. Can we manage this thing? Okay. And because by that time, by 15th October, we may have 5% positivity rate. Hopefully. So can we say, because it's a small number, okay? I mean, everything is happening. Everything else is happening in this country. Sorry to say. I mean, everything. Lalis, I mean, like 100,000 people in one meeting. Look, please, let's also not pretend that we are not on. Right. Can you do it nicely? But again, you know, early warning signals. Quickly, they report. Let's look out for anything. Okay.
I want us to move it forward and look at how, if anything has changed in terms of how assemblies have been discharging their duties during this particular COVID time, because there was a point where we couldn't go to, you know, assemblies or parliament because nobody knew what's going on. Now that we are probably at a point where things might go back to some sort of new normal, have we readapted? Have we changed how we operate so that issues can still be discharged, services can still be discharged, even in this COVID time, June, in the Nairobi County?
I'm happy that a couple of counties, you know, I chair the Kenyan members of county assemblies, and so we've been monitoring what counties are doing in relation to the assemblies in relation to this COVID-19 and whether the adaptability is there. I'm happy to report that enough counties have embraced technology, and you can now follow proceedings as a member of the county assembly through the Zoom and through other platforms that are offering this particular service. But then again, we also saw a deflux in the staff, because then staff had to also be released to go home, and just enough skeleton staff is what was working in the assemblies. Currently in counties where maybe a small number, remember Nairobi has 122 members of county assembly, so by the time we all go there, it's a disaster. But then we are one of the people who are still using this particular platform to follow proceedings in the house. But counties like Laikipia have gone back, counties like Mandera had gone back, despite now not having passed their budget. You see, now they're blaming COVID for late budget. We saw the control of budget saying that I think Mandera, Wajir and Kitui who have not passed their budget, so they will not be able to get their allocation. But matters technology, yes, we have embraced. The downside to it, there is not enough public participation, so we are finding some mischievous bills, so to speak, finding themselves getting absorbed in the county assembly just because everyone is not there to keep a watchful eye. The public has maybe less knowledge, because we used to depend so much on public participation, so that the public can be able to know what we are legislating for them and what we are oversighting. And so that has a bit of a downside to it. Counties had adjourned for a very long time, but yes, right now there's a lot of technology adaptability, so I think we are on the right track. Okay. Yes.
Dr. Mbae, I know that you're really hands-on on the ground. We've seen, you know, pictures of you, talking to your constituents, finding out what's going on. With this particular, time where you have to keep social distance, you have to keep your mask on. If you can stay at home, stay at home. How are you getting that grassroots feel and knowing what they need to be done? Because not everyone can be on Zoom with their MCA or MP How are we getting to know the concerns on the ground as we stand right now?
First, Jeff, we thank God also, we didn't have a case in the County Assembly of Nakuru. So what we did is to be very cautious. In a sitting of 78, we only were around 26, even up to now. Only 26 can go in at one particular time. On committees, we have worked on Zoom. So interaction, we have really reduced. Staff, we have over 100. They have been working, separately by shifts. Now, on the ground, it has been very tricky, Jeff, because remember, when COVID came, you cannot run away because you are elected and say, all of us to stay at home. You really have to go and find out, from a safe distance. The first thing we did, Jeff, is to go and mobilize masks from my professionals and all that, Kabaz professionals and those from Subukia. We gave over 3,000 masks. Then we came back to the county government, they added another 3,000 masks. We had to be there. Now, Jeff, somebody loses their loved ones during COVID, and it was very sad. In one of my situations, somebody came to a hospital, and he was pronounced COVID. You could imagine the drama for the first time in a village, with all those guys, without the overall, and people don't know what's happening. And it has been announced that, there's the people come in and they have to go to the grave with all those overalls and all that. You have to be there with the people and feel with them. You have to be there, liaise with the county government, liaise with the local people, bury them. You have to attend those funerals and all that. So what you have been doing, you have to make sure you interact. Of course, you're making use of phones, but again, you have to go and meet people. Border, what are their issues? No, we don't have masks. Can I go and get them? It has been a very trying moment, because not everybody can stay. We have been telling them to stay home, but it's like you can't stay home. I mean, media has to be there so that the people who are at home can follow up what is happening. It's the same thing with a preacher. I used to go and meet, and I was like, one was told me, when it was at the highest, one pastor had done like seven burials during that time, because it's a parishioner has died. I mean, you can't tell me that, it's COVID, you continue burying. He has to go and bury. So it has been very technical, but we have managed well. We are doing well so far, and that's what I'm saying. Let's not celebrate yet. Let's go down, only that the political class is ahead of us. But the biggest issue, Jeff, I can say in a nutshell, in the counties right now, post-COVID, is people celebrated the revenue sharing formula, Jeff. We are not celebrating as much. Remember, it's already, the Constitution had said 5 years for the second formula. Now, what the Senate did was political. Legally, they failed, because in the Constitution, it said 5 years. The second formula was supposed to go for only 5 years, until 1920. So they moved it 1 year. If somebody went to court, we are not willing to go to court right now. We are all tired. We got tired of waiting. It's unconstitutional, but we said it's okay. But number two, at least we got away forward. But the issue is, Jeff, this is very important for everybody to listen, especially in terms of devolution.
Very quickly, because I want to bring in the speaker.
Okay, yes,
okay, let me bring in on this one. There's been a bit of a technical challenge, but we finally do have him, Speaker Nyandarua County Assembly. He's also the chair of the County Assembly's Forum. Speaker Ndego Home, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Karibu sana, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I wish to say hi to Dr. Mbae and the president of the Youth League.
Yes.
Ndego, and you are doing very well.
Asante sana. I want us to get right to it from where you stand, because fortunately for you, you have a bird's eye view of what's happening right across the country in terms of county assemblies at this particular point in time. With what has happened as far as COVID-19 is concerned, what scorecard would you give them?
Jeff, I cannot get you clearly. I think I can tell you are asking something about COVID, but I'm not very clear on it. Okay,
I'll repeat that, Speaker Ndego. Just in terms of county assemblies and how they've tried to adapt to operating in spite of what's happening with COVID. What scorecard would you give them? Because you've seen this right across the country. What's your scorecard on their job so far? Hits right there. We'll try and sort that out in just a bit. I'll bring it back right here. You're talking about revenue allocation, and there's no celebration right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you, these are the issues now with the county, realistically. Look, whatever happened, people are so tired. So we said, bring whatever you're going to bring. Okay, we looked at it constitutionally. We looked at it with our budget office. It was supposed to be, the new formula was supposed to start 2021, not next year. Now, what that means, Jeff, is this. The money that was celebrated, Nakuru 2.5 billion, Kiambu, Nairobi, will not be enjoyed in this term of this government, because development money is never released in the last election year. So that money for 21-22 will come to the counties, especially the development component, in 22-23. Now what means is this: For example, in Nakuru, already we had gone flat. No, nothing. We had to scrap every recurrent coin to make a bit of development. Half of what we did last year. And Jeff, we need to understand this issue. We are talking about per capita here. When you give me 4,000 Nakuru, you give another 22. We can only pay salaries and all that. We have very little for development. Now, what means is that what happened in Nakuru, the developments that happened in Nakuru last year, only half will be done this year. Because we had already choked our revenues and all that. So we are only going to have part of this. And the money, the 2.5, and mark you, it was a conditional grant. The 53 billion is conditioned on the improvement of the economy. And that's what I'm saying. The senators are trying to push to the president something they ought to do. The National Assembly, they are the ones who approve the budget. They are the ones to come and say, look here, this amount of money that we need. They don't need to go and preach, and they're the ones who are supposed to make the budget. Right. And I had a conversation last night, and this is what we are proposing to do. We want to say this. We have a budget of 3 trillion. But only this 16 goes to the county. What percentage is that? Right. Why? Because the national government controls it. First of all, they remove money they call national interest, like loans and all that, defense money, they remove before they say, now this is what is going to be shared to the counties. Can we be serious about devolution, Jeff? Let me tell you, the people on the ground have no other hope on earth. On the 6 people they elected, except that small thing they want to see. They have no other, there's nothing else they want. They don't want you to buy them a car. They just want that thing fixed. But what is happening here now, there is a problem at the central government. There are people who are very scared about devolution. They don't want it. I don't know why, Jeff, and we must talk about this because let's not lie to Ajiko that the money is coming to you, but there's a lot of bottlenecks. Okay. We get only like 10% of what happens here, and we are proposing to my office to amend the PFM Act, the Public Finance Management Act, so that it is very clear that the money that is going to the counties is not the last audited. It is the one of the previous year, for example, of the KRA. The one that is, when KRA submits to the National Assembly, we give them only 1 year. The immediate year, we get a percentage. But now, we are using, for example, 2016. Those are 4 years later. We are trying to use the revenues of 2016 to get how much money goes to the counties. Jeff, I agree with all those people are talking about corruption and all that. I agree. Let us give the money to where it's supposed to be. Then let's follow the people who are going to steal the money.
Let me get June on this one, on this one as well. We've heard of executive overreaching all these institutions. Is there a way county assemblies can push back on this, or are they victims of this through and through? Because even as Dr. Mbae talks about it, it seems like we need to have a way where we can actually be more independent, audit accounts that have been done, but it almost feels like it's the executive to decide it or not. Can county assemblies push back and protect devolution?
Yes, county assemblies should protect devolution. That is their number one mandate, if it is not the first on the list on their job description. What we see is, and what I'm getting from Dr. Mbae, is a lot of interference also from the executive. Fine, the executive gives us and forms the budget, of course, in the office of the CEC of Finance, and it comes to the budget committee. Then now we start looking at things, putting into consideration how much revenue you're collecting, what is your allocation, of course, from government. We are seeing Kara is not clear. That is what he's talking about. It's not very clear. What measures can we be able to put? Putting into consideration a lot that would help Mwananchi. So assemblies should. It is their number one job to protect devolution, but we are not seeing this happening because then there's a lot of interference, political interference, interests from everywhere. But the number one thing we should do is to protect devolution. Devolution came to help. Devolution came to actually bring power closer to the people, and the people are the ones who have the sovereign power. So if things remain constant, then the MCAs are not going to protect this devolution. But moving forward, I'd like to see a caliber of MCAs who get into the county assembly, who have the understanding and the people's needs at heart for them to protect devolution. Okay,
we have less than a minute to go. I want parting shot from each of you as we get into the weekend. Very quickly, Dr. Mbae, what's your parting shot this morning?
Thank you. Jeff, we are willing to protect devolution as county assemblies. We have been doing it. But the problem is, together with our executives, we are at the mercy of the national government. You remember last year, the Devolution of Revenue Act took 2-3 years. This year, again, the issue of formula took another 2-3 months. Now, by the time the money is released, Jeff, it will be another 2 or so months. By the time January comes, by the time the money you give us, the little money you give us, which comes in measure, in droplets, will not be able to absorb. Then you say counties have no capacity. There is a problem with the systems and structures of how devolution should work and how it is working right now. And I think if we can structure that, devolution is the biggest thing that came to help the country. Because as of now, we'll be scrabbling to come to Nairobi to get that borehole, to get that road done. Well, let us empower devolution because that's where the people are. The people of Kenya are in the grassroots.
Okay, that's where we leave it at that. June, what's your parting shot this morning?
Devolution needs to be protected not only by county assembly members, by everyone who calls themselves a leader, either elected or nominated into the houses that we each represent. I would like to urge county assemblies, we need to relook at the budget so that the budget can go hand in hand with the needs of the people. I think that's maybe where we get it wrong. But if county assemblies can be able to relook at their budgets and prioritize the needs of the people, then we are good to go. Okay,
thank you so much for that. That's where we draw our curtains as far as this segment is concerned. Thank you so much for making time this morning, June Degwa.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you. Peter
As
Mbae,
always.
thank you so much for your time as always. Also, apologies. Tried to get Speaker Ndegwa Wahome on, a bit of a technical issue right there. We'll sort it out next time. But don't forget, if you want to be part of this conversation, you can get us online at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. The WhatsApp number also at the bottom of the screen right there. Anytime you have any feedback or thoughts, you can get that in as well right here. You also get yourself a copy of a People Daily straight to your phone. The number that you dial, *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. I had a question of the day right here that we had posed to you as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And this post-COVID world, are counties adapting to a post-COVID Kenya? That's a question that we posed to you. I think we have some feedback on this. Even as we wind up very quickly, we'll have that up for you on screen. Let's have it. Good morning. My name is Abdimalik Khalil Jubad from Ijara. Devolution is not the new normal. First, devolution is a statutory delegation of powers from the central government of a sovereign state to govern at subnational level, such as a regional or local level. It is a form of administrative decentralization. Kenya is a country with a confused government and leaders. They need devolution, and that is in uppercase. For their own self-interest, these people are not good at all. Okay, that's why we have that one coming in. You can send your feedback in. We'll be looking at that, of course, throughout the show right here. We took a short break. We're back on the other side as we get interactive. It's also Hangout Friday. We have a DJ in the house. We'll be cooking as well. Lots happening on the show. Don't go too far.